Santara's story.
A day in school for me is not really too different from the average student. You know, I do mostly the same things that other students do. I go to classes, I'm involved in activities. I've been doing a double major for early childhood education and psychology. I hope to one day be a kindergarten teacher in a public school system. I just like the general feel of the campus, a fairly flat campus. The other campus that I was accepted to was Framingham State, which was built on a hill. So I figured there would be problems getting around, especially in the wintertime. John is one of my friends. I met him at the Spanish club. I met him 3 years ago already. We have been really good friends ever since. I was born with Spina Bifida. I have an anxiety disorder, which I've had for a couple of years. I was recently diagnosed with borderline personality disorder based on anxiety and depression, things like that. My parents really had a hard time accepting that I had a disability, and my dad, he had a hard time accepting disability. I think part of it may be cultural norms in India. So for me, being an Indian girl and then having a disability on top of it, I think was an extra thing to absorb, and a lot of that was channeled toward me for many years. As a student, it was very difficult living in a very dysfunctional environment on an everyday basis, and thus my grades had really suffered, and there was a point where people did not think I was going to graduate. But there was one person who constantly believed in me, who was the school psychologist. She never lost faith. There was also the school adjustment counselor, who in high school was a big help in terms of my transition from high school to college. Before I came here, I had met with the coordinator of disability resources and discussed what accommodations they had to offer.
Okay, so we will need to do the reduced course load letter then next semester as well.
Yes.
Well, what happens with the students such as Santara once they've provided us with the documentation determining the disability that a student may have, whether it's physical, psychological, or learning disabilities? We would sit down with that student at the beginning of each semester and talk about the accommodations that would be appropriate for them. And we work together, and then we would then produce a letter to the professors with whom the student will be taking their classes. We might offer the services of a note taker in the classroom who would share their notes. Another example of an accommodation would be a priority registration, specifically for students who have physical challenges that they may need to have. They need to have accessibility and access into those classrooms, and perhaps a schedule that will meet their medical needs.
No. The accommodations that I asked for are note-taker services. I have slow graph motor skills. It's hard for me to listen and take notes at the same time. I also get extended time for my exams, which I take in what's called our Academic Achievement Center. And as far as interacting with the professors, it is still a little bit uncomfortable. I do still have a little bit of the shyness in me. But again, with the help of disability resources, they provide letters that explain everything.
Thursday afternoon? Is that okay?
Without the accommodations, I would still be struggling in school. and I probably wouldn't be here today. Let's see. If I were talking to other kids who are facing similar issues, I would tell them, it's very important to have a positive attitude, even though circumstances may be difficult. Management. How about that? And definitely, if you have supports, reach out for them. Which class are you taking in management?
We're always trying to get the word out that our office exists and we are here to help students with disabilities. And many students will choose to identify when they first come. A student may go to a professor and talk to them about their disability issues, and then they may get referred down here to us. We have advising staff who are also sensitive to picking up with students whether or not there might be a disability issue. But it's really up to the student to make that decision to identify here with us. I have a feeling the biology, I have quite a few students in biology. The next semester I have a feeling it's going to be a challenge for all of us to get through it.
For a long time I felt defined by my disability, and a lot of that had to do with my family having their problems with dealing with my disability, and also just society in general. When you have a disability, they tend to label you with, oh, that's a disabled person. I still have to show myself every day to the people out there, people even around this campus, that I am not a wheelchair. I'm the person in the wheelchair.
For more information on your rights and obligations under the Americans with Disabilities Act, call us at 1-800-949-4232, voice or TTY, or visit us on the web at www.newenglandada.org. Produced by No Limits Media Incorporated for the New England ADA Center, Disabilities in Business Technical Assistance Center. Oshie Harrison, EDD Project Director. Produced under a grant from the National Institute of Disability Rehabilitation and Research, a project of Adaptive Environments Institute for Human-Centered Design.